Washington State, the Pacific Northwest, from the misty forests of the Olympic Peninsula to the urban sprawl of Seattle, from the Columbia River to the Canadian border, a state known for coffee, tech companies, and natural beauty. But Washington has a darker side, a history of serial killers, of unsolved disappearances, of murders that shocked the nation. 5 verified cases from Washington State. From the Green River Killer to the I-5 Killer, from family annihilators to college campus murders, this is the dark side of the Evergreen State. Before we explore these disturbing cases, if you're interested in true crime, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We cover verified cases from around the world with respect for victims and their families. Comment which Washington case shocked you most. Let's begin. The Green River Killer. Gary Leon Ridgway, the most prolific serial killer in American history. 49 confirmed victims, possibly more than 90. Over 2 decades of killing, targeting vulnerable women, sex workers, runaways, girls nobody was looking for, girls whose disappearances wouldn't be reported. Gary Ridgway was born February 18, 1949 in Salt Lake City, Utah. His family moved to Washington when he was young. They settled south of Seattle, in the SeaTac area, near the airport. Gary had a troubled childhood. His mother was domineering, controlling. She would humiliate him. She had a violent temper. Gary wet the bed until he was 13. His mother would parade him around in his stained sheets, shaming him. Gary grew to hate his mother, but also to be obsessed with her. It was a twisted relationship. Gary struggled in school. He had a low IQ, around 82. He barely graduated high school. After graduation, Gary joined the Navy. He served 2 years. He was stationed in Vietnam. He returned to Washington in 1971. He got married. The marriage didn't last. He got married again. That marriage also failed. Gary worked as a truck painter at the Kenworth Truck Factory in Renton. He worked there for 32 years. His co-workers described him as quiet, a little odd, but not threatening. Nobody suspected what Gary was doing in his free time. Gary frequented the SeaTac Strip, a stretch of Pacific Highway South known for prostitution. He would pick up sex workers. He would pay for sex. Then he would kill them. He started in 1982. His first confirmed victim was Wendy Lee Caulfield, 16 years old, a runaway. She was found floating in the Green River on July 15, 1982, strangled, her body dumped in the water. Over the next year, more bodies were found in and near the Green River. Deborah Lynn Bonner, 23, Marcia Faye Chapman, 31, Cynthia Jean Hines, 17, Opal Charmaine Mills, 16, all found in the river, all strangled, all sex workers or runaways. The pattern was clear. A serial killer was hunting along the Green River. Police formed the Green River Task Force, one of the largest serial killer investigations in U.S. history. At its peak, it involved more than 50 detectives. They investigated thousands of tips, hundreds of suspects, but they couldn't find the killer. Bodies kept appearing, not just in the river, in forests, in fields, along highways. The killer was dumping bodies all over King County. The victims were mostly young women, teenagers. Many were sex workers. Many were runaways. Some had drug problems. Some were homeless. They were society's most vulnerable, and the killer knew it. He knew nobody would look for them. Nobody would report them missing right away. By the time police found the bodies, evidence was gone, decomposed, washed away. Gary Ridgway was interviewed by police in 1983. He was on a list of suspects, men who frequented the SeaTac Strip, men who had been seen with sex workers. But Gary passed a polygraph test. Police cleared him. They moved on. Gary kept killing. Throughout the 1980s, bodies were found. Giselle Ann Lovorn, 17, found in 1982. Deborah Lorraine Estes, 15, found in 1984. Shondalia Summers, 17, found in 1983. Mary Bridget Meehan, 18, found in 1983. The list grew and grew. By 1984, at least 26 women were confirmed dead. Dozens more were missing. The Green River Killer was terrorizing the Pacific Northwest. Women were afraid. Sex workers changed their routines, worked in groups, avoided certain areas, but the killing continued. Then in 1984, the murders seemed to slow down. Fewer bodies were found. Police thought maybe the killer had died, or moved, or stopped. But Gary hadn't stopped. He had just gotten better at hiding the bodies. He was dumping them in more remote locations, in deep forests, where they wouldn't be found for years. Some were never found. In 2001, advances in DNA technology gave police a new tool. They retested evidence from the Green River cases, semen samples, hair, fibers. The DNA matched Gary Ridgway, the same Gary Ridgway who had been interviewed in 1983, who had passed a polygraph, who had been cleared. On November 30th, 2001, Gary Ridgway was arrested at his job at Kenworth. He was charged with 4 murders. The evidence was overwhelming, his DNA on the victims. Gary's third wife, Judith Mawson, was shocked. She had been married to Gary for 13 years. She had no idea. She thought he was a kind, gentle man, a little boring, but not a killer. During interrogation, Gary confessed, but not to 4 murders, to 48. He described in detail how he killed the women, how he would pick them up on the strip, offer them money for sex, drive them to secluded areas, strangle them during sex or immediately after. He would dump their bodies in clusters, multiple victims in the same area. He called them his clusters. He would return to the bodies, sometimes weeks or months later, to have sex with the corpses. He would move the bodies, pose them. He enjoyed the control, the power. Gary said he hated sex workers. He blamed them for his failed marriages, for his own use of prostitutes. He said they deserved to die. He felt no remorse. He described killing as his career, his job, something he was good at. Prosecutors made a deal with Gary. If he confessed to all his murders and led police to the bodies, they wouldn't seek the death penalty. Gary agreed. He took detectives to dump sites all over King County, remote forests, ravines, rivers. He showed them where he had left the bodies. Some sites had multiple victims. At one location, he had dumped 5 women. Police recovered remains, identified victims. Families finally got closure, finally knew what happened to their daughters, their sisters, their friends. On December 18, 2003, Gary Ridgway pleaded guilty to 48 counts of aggravated first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to 48 life sentences without possibility of parole, consecutive, not concurrent. Gary would die in prison. In 2011, Gary pleaded guilty to his 49th victim, Rebecca Marrero. Her remains had been identified through DNA. Gary is suspected in dozens more murders, women who disappeared during his active years, whose bodies were never found. Estimates range from 70 to over 90 victims. Gary is likely the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. More victims than Ted Bundy, more than John Wayne Gacy, more than Jeffrey Dahmer. But Gary Ridgway is not famous like those killers. He's not glamorized. He's not the subject of movies and TV shows, because his victims were sex workers, runaways, marginalized women. Society didn't care about them. The media didn't care. Gary knew that. He exploited that. He targeted women he thought nobody would miss. And for 20 years he was right. It wasn't until DNA technology caught up that Gary was finally stopped. The Green River Killer. 49 confirmed victims. Dozens more suspected. Women strangled and dumped like garbage. Gary Ridgway is 75 years old. He's incarcerated at Washington State Penitentiary. He will never be released. He will die in prison. But the families of his victims will never get their loved ones back. 49 women, daughters, mothers, sisters, friends, all gone. Because one man decided they didn't deserve to live. Ted Bundy, the name everyone knows, the face of charming evil. Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. He grew up believing his mother was his sister. His grandparents raised him. It was a lie to hide the shame of his illegitimate birth. Ted eventually moved to Washington State with his mother. They settled in Tacoma. Ted was smart, charismatic, good-looking. He attended the University of Washington. He studied psychology. He was involved in politics. He volunteered for campaigns. He worked at a suicide hotline. Everyone who knew Ted thought he was going places. But Ted had a secret. He was obsessed with violence, with control, with killing. Ted's first confirmed murders occurred in Washington State in 1974. His first victim was Linda Ann Healy, 21 years old, University of Washington student. She disappeared from her basement bedroom on January 31, 1974. Her bed was made, blood on the pillow. She was gone. No sign of forced entry. No witnesses. Just gone. Over the next 6 months, more young women disappeared in Washington. Donna Gail Manson, 19, Evergreen State College student. Disappeared March 12, 1974. Susan Elaine Rancourt, 18. Central Washington State College student. Disappeared April 17, 1974. Roberta Kathleen Parks, 22. Oregon State University student. Disappeared May 6, 1974 while visiting Corvallis. Brenda Carol Ball, 22. Disappeared June 1, 1974 from a tavern in Burien. Georgianne Hawkins, 18. University of Washington student. Disappeared June 11, 1974 from an alley near her sorority house. The pattern was clear. Young women, college students. Long dark hair parted in the middle, all attractive. All disappeared without a trace. Police had no leads, no bodies, no evidence. Just missing girls. On July 14, 1974, multiple women reported being approached by a man at Lake Sammamish State Park. He said his name was Ted. He had his arm in a sling. He asked for help loading a sailboat onto his car. Several women declined, but Janice Ott, 23, agreed to help. She walked away with Ted. She was never seen alive again. Later that same day, Denise Naslund, 19, also disappeared from Lake Sammamish. Witnesses described the man named Ted, young, handsome, drove a Volkswagen Beetle. Police released a sketch. Tips flooded in. One tip mentioned Ted Bundy, a law student, volunteer, former co-worker at the crisis hotline. But police didn't follow up. Ted seemed too normal, too educated, too charming. In 1975, Ted was arrested in Utah for kidnapping. Police searched his car. They found handcuffs, an ice pick, a ski mask, a crowbar, suspicious items. Utah police connected Ted to murders there. And in Colorado, Washington investigators realized Ted Bundy might be their man. The man who took Linda Healy, Janice Ott, Denise Naslund, all those missing girls. In 1979, while on trial in Florida for other murders, Ted was convicted. Evidence mounted. Testimony from survivors. Physical evidence. Bite marks on victims that matched Ted's teeth. Ted was eventually linked to at least 30 murders. But he hinted at more, many more. He never gave a full confession, but investigators believe he killed over 100 women. In Washington state alone, Ted is confirmed to have killed at least 11 women, possibly more. He would approach them, pretend to be injured or need help, use his charm, his good looks, his fake cast or crutches. Once he got them to his car, he would knock them unconscious, drive them to remote locations, rape them, strangle them. Sometimes he kept the bodies, returned to them, had sex with the corpses, applied makeup to them. Ted Bundy was executed in Florida on January 24, 1989. He was 42 years old. Thousands cheered outside the prison, but the families of his Washington victims got no closure. Many bodies were never found. Linda Healy's remains were found on Taylor Mountain in Washington in 1975, along with the remains of Susan Rancourt, Roberta Parks, and Brenda Ball. 4 women, dumped together. Janice Ott and Denise Naslund were found near Lake Sammamish, but others are still missing. Donna Manson's body has never been found. Ted Bundy terrorized Washington state in 1974. He shattered the sense of safety on college campuses. Parents were terrified. Students were warned not to walk alone, not to help strangers. Ted changed how we think about serial killers. He wasn't a loner, wasn't obviously disturbed. He was charming, educated, handsome. He could be anyone, and that's what made him so terrifying. The Carnation Murders. December 24, 2007. Christmas Eve. A family gathering turned massacre. In Carnation, Washington, a small town east of Seattle, the Anderson family was preparing for Christmas. Wayne Anderson, 60. His wife Judy, 61. Their son Scott, 32. His wife Erica, 32. And Scott and Erica's children. Olivia, 5. Nathan, 3. 6 people. 3 generations. All together for the holidays. But 2 members of the family had other plans. Michelle Anderson, 29, Wayne and Judy's daughter, Scott's sister, and her boyfriend, Joseph McEnroe, 29. Michelle and Joseph were in financial trouble. They owed Wayne and Judy $40,000. Wayne and Judy had lent them money, expected to be repaid. Michelle and Joseph couldn't pay. They were facing foreclosure, bankruptcy, desperation. So they decided to kill the family. On Christmas Eve morning, Michelle and Joseph went to Wayne and Judy's house. The family was gathered, excited for Christmas. Michelle and Joseph brought guns. They started shooting. They shot Wayne first, then Judy, then Scott, then Erica. The children, Olivia and Nathan, were in another room. They heard the gunshots. They were terrified. Michelle went to the children, her niece and nephew, 5 and 3 years old, and she shot them, execution style. 6 people, dead, on Christmas Eve, in their own home. Michelle and Joseph didn't call police. They didn't confess. They tried to cover it up. They left the bodies in the house. They went back to their own home, acted normal, waited. On December 26th, family members became worried. Wayne and Judy weren't answering their phones. It was unusual, especially on Christmas. Family went to the house to check. They found the bodies, all 6. Michelle, Scott, and Erica's children. Wayne and Judy, Scott and Erica, all shot. The house was a crime scene. Police were called. Investigators quickly focused on Michelle and Joseph. They had motive, the debt, the financial problems. They had opportunity. They were supposed to be at the family gathering, but they claimed they didn't go. They lied, said they stayed home, but evidence proved otherwise. Shell casings from the murders matched guns owned by Joseph. Forensics placed them at the scene. Phone records showed they were lying. On December 27th, Michelle Anderson and Joseph McEnroe were arrested. They were charged with 6 counts of aggravated first-degree murder. During the investigation, detectives found more evidence. A recording, a 911 call. Erica Anderson had called 911 during the attack. The recording captured gunshots, screaming. Erica begging, not the kids. No, the call was cut short. Erica was shot. The call ended. It was devastating evidence, proof of the horror, proof that Erica tried to save her children, but Michelle and Joseph killed them anyway. The trial began in 2008. Prosecutors sought the death penalty. The evidence was overwhelming. Ballistics, DNA, phone records, the 911 call, testimony from investigators. The jury heard it all. Michelle's defense argued she was under Joseph's control, that he manipulated her, that she wouldn't have done it alone. But prosecutors showed Michelle was an active participant. She shot her own family, her parents, her brother, her niece and nephew. She pulled the trigger. The jury found both Michelle Anderson and Joseph McEnroe guilty on all 6 counts of aggravated first-degree murder. The sentencing phase began. The jury had to decide, life in prison or death penalty. After deliberation, the jury recommended life without parole, not the death penalty. The judge followed the recommendation. On March 19, 2009, Michelle Anderson and Joseph McEnroe were sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. They will never be released. They will die in prison. The Carnation Murders shocked Washington State, a family annihilation. On Christmas Eve, 2 adults, 2 children, parents, grandchildren, all killed for $40,000. Because Michelle and Joseph couldn't face their debt, couldn't face their failure. The small town of Carnation was devastated. 6 people gone, a family destroyed. Every Christmas Eve, the community remembers Wayne and Judy Anderson, Scott and Erica Anderson, Olivia and Nathan, a family that should have been celebrating. Instead, they were murdered by someone they trusted, by family. The University of Washington Murders. Marie Burr, May 17, 1961, Tacoma, Washington. Marie Burr was 8 years old. She lived with her family in the north end of Tacoma, a quiet neighborhood, safe. On the night of August 31, 1961, Marie went to bed in her bedroom. She shared the room with her younger sister. Everything was normal, a typical night. But in the morning, Marie was gone. Her parents discovered her missing around 5:30 a.m. The front door was open. Marie's bed was empty. No sign of struggle, no note, nothing, just gone. Marie's father called police immediately. A massive search began. Hundreds of volunteers, police, search dogs. They searched the neighborhood, the parks, the waterfront. Tacoma was in panic. An 8-year-old girl vanished from her own home. How? Why? Who took her? Police had no leads, no witnesses, no evidence. Marie's disappearance remained a mystery for decades. But there was a theory, a suspect, Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was 14 years old in 1961. He lived in Tacoma, just blocks from the Burr family. He was a paper boy. He delivered newspapers in the neighborhood. He knew the area. He knew the houses. In later years, investigators suspected Ted Bundy might have taken Marie Burr. It would have been his first victim. He would have been 14, a teenager, already showing signs of violence, of obsession. But Ted never confessed to Anne Marie's murder. He denied it, said he didn't do it. Anne Marie's body was never found. The case remains officially unsolved, but her mother, Beverly Burr, believed Ted Bundy was responsible. She said she saw him in the neighborhood that night. She believed he took her daughter. Anne Marie Burr's disappearance haunted Tacoma for decades. What happened to her? Where is she? Did Ted Bundy kill her? We'll never know for certain. But Anne Marie Burr is remembered as a little girl who never got to grow up, who vanished one night and never came home. Westley Allan Dodd, one of the most disturbing child killers in American history. Westley Allan Dodd was born July 3, 1961 in Toppenish, Washington. He had a troubled childhood. His parents divorced when he was young. He was neglected, lonely. By age 13, Westley was already showing disturbing behavior. He exposed himself to children. He molested younger kids in his neighborhood. He was arrested as a teenager, but the charges were dropped. He got counseling. It didn't help. Westley's crimes escalated. In his 20s, he moved around Washington and Oregon. Everywhere he went, he molested children. He was arrested multiple times, convicted, but he served minimal sentences. The system kept releasing him. In 1989, Westley decided molesting wasn't enough. He wanted to kill. On September 4, 1989, Westley went to David Douglas Park in Vancouver, Washington. He was hunting, looking for victims. He found two brothers, Cole Neer, 11, William Neer, 10. They were playing in the park, alone. Westley lured them into the woods. He told them he wanted to show them something. The boys followed. Westley attacked them. He stabbed Cole repeatedly. He stabbed William. He sexually assaulted them. Then he left them to die. Cole died at the scene. William died shortly after at the hospital. He was able to tell police a description of the attacker before he died. A man, glasses. But it wasn't enough to identify Westley. Westley wrote about the murders in his diary. He described in graphic detail what he did, how he felt. He said it was thrilling, exciting. He wanted to do it again. On October 29, 1989, Westley went to a movie theater in Camas, Washington. He was looking for another victim. He found Lee Easley, 4 years old, at the theater with his mother and older brother. Westley waited, watched. When Lee went to the bathroom alone, Westley grabbed him. He took Lee out of the theater. Nobody noticed. Lee's mother realized he was missing. She searched, called police, but Lee was already gone. Westley took Lee to his apartment in Vancouver. He kept him captive. For hours, Westley tortured Lee, sexually abused him, took photographs. Then he strangled him. Westley hung Lee's body in a closet. He kept it there for a day. Then he dumped it near Vancouver Lake. Lee Easley's body was found on November 1, 1989. Police knew immediately it was murder. The evidence was clear. Sexual assault, strangulation. They intensified the search for the killer. Westley was scared. He knew police were looking. He decided he needed another victim. On November 3rd, Westley went to a park in Vancouver. He tried to lure a 6-year-old boy. He told the boy he had toys, candy. The boy started to follow, but the boy's older brother saw. He screamed. Westley ran. The boys told their mother. She called police. Police arrived. They found Westley nearby, still in the park. They questioned him. Westley lied, said he was just walking, but police were suspicious. They asked him to come to the station. Westley agreed. At the station, Westley confessed to everything. The Neer brothers, Lee Easley, the attempted abduction. He described the murders in detail. He showed no remorse. He said he enjoyed it. Police searched Westley's apartment. They found Lee Easley's body, the photographs, the diary, evidence of all his crimes. Westley Allan Dodd was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, attempted kidnapping, sexual assault. His trial began in 1990. Westley pleaded guilty. He said he deserved to die. He wanted the death penalty. The jury agreed. Westley was sentenced to death. He was given the choice, lethal injection or hanging. Westley chose hanging. He said it was appropriate. Lee Easley was strangled, so he should hang. On January 5, 1993, Westley Allan Dodd was executed by hanging at Washington State Penitentiary. He was 31 years old. He was the first person executed by hanging in the United States in 28 years. His execution was controversial. Some said he got what he deserved. Others said execution was too easy. He should have suffered more. The families of his victims had mixed feelings. Some wanted him dead. Some wanted him to rot in prison. But Westley Dodd is gone, and 3 children are still dead. Cole Neer, William Neer, Lee Iselli, 3 boys who were playing, going to a movie, living their lives, until Westley Allan Dodd decided to kill them. The Dodd case changed how Washington handles sex offenders. It led to stricter laws, longer sentences, better monitoring. But it didn't bring back the boys. It didn't undo the horror. These 5 cases show the darkness of Washington state. The Green River Killer. 49 women murdered over 2 decades. Strangled and dumped. Gary Ridgway targeted society's most vulnerable and got away with it for years. Ted Bundy, the charming law student who killed at least 11 women in Washington, possibly more. He shattered the illusion of safety on college campuses. The Carnation Murders, a family annihilation on Christmas Eve. 6 people killed, including 2 young children, all for $40,000. Marie Burr, an 8-year-old girl who vanished from her bedroom, possibly Ted Bundy's first victim, a case that remains unsolved. Westley Allan Dodd, a child predator who escalated to murder. 3 boys killed, all under 12 years old, executed by hanging in 1993. These cases changed Washington. The Green River Task Force became a model for serial killer investigations. Ted Bundy changed how we profile and catch serial killers. The Carnation Murders led to discussions about family violence and financial stress. Marie Burr's case highlighted the vulnerability of children. Westley Dodd's crimes led to stricter sex offender laws. Washington state is beautiful. Mountains, forests, ocean. But it has a dark history. Serial killers, family annihilators, child predators. From Seattle to Tacoma to Vancouver to Carnation. From urban streets to remote forests. Violence has touched every corner of the state. The victims in these cases were vulnerable. Sex workers that society ignored. College students who trusted a stranger. A family celebrating Christmas. An 8-year-old girl sleeping in her bed. 3 boys playing in a park. The killers were predators. Gary Ridgway, a truck painter who killed for 20 years. Ted Bundy, a law student who used his charm to lure victims. Michelle Anderson and Joseph McEnroe, a couple who killed their own family. Westley Dodd, a child molester who became a child killer. These killers are gone. Gary Ridgway will die in prison. Ted Bundy was executed in Florida. Michelle and Joseph will die in prison. Westley Dodd was hanged, but the victims are still gone. 49 women, 11 college students, 6 family members, 1 little girl, 3 boys. They never came home. Their families never got closure. Some bodies were never found. Some cases remain unsolved, but we remember them. If this video showed you the dark side of Washington state, make sure to like and subscribe. We cover verified true crime cases from around the world with respect for victims and their families. Comment which Washington case affected you most. Share this with anyone interested in true crime. These stories need to be told. The victims need to be remembered. Because Washington is more than just Seattle and coffee. It's also a place where real crimes happened, where real people suffered, where real families were destroyed. Remember their names. The 49 women Gary Ridgway killed, Wendy Lee Caulfield, Deborah Bonner, Marcia Chapman, and 46 more. Remember the women Ted Bundy killed in Washington, Linda Healy, Donna Manson, Susan Rancourt, Janice Ott, Denise Naslund, and 6 more. Remember the Anderson family, Wayne and Judy, Scott and Erica, Olivia and Nathan, killed on Christmas Eve by family. Remember Marie Burr, 8 years old, taken from her bed, never found. Remember Cole Neer, William Neer, Lee Iselli, 3 boys killed by a monster. These are the victims. These are the stories. This is Washington State's dark history, and we remember